Hello.
Hi, how are you doing, guys? It is the 9th of April. I am keeping track of the days, honestly. And it is day 20 of lockdown. So we're in this nearly at the 3-week mark. So yeah, that's what's going on. We've had a bit of a busy 24 hours. So I don't even know where to begin on that. So I don't. Was there anything that we need? Oh, also I apologise if anybody does watch these to the end. We cut off again because we went over the 4 gig maximum. So we really do need to, when it gets close to 31 minutes, stop talking. So we'll try to do that in future.
We have a lot to talk about today, so
yes.
We need to rattle through.
Yes, I'll take that hint. Yes. So I will start with the sort of drama that we've had around here, which was after filming yesterday and just sort of at that sort of chilling out stage. One of my cats, which we have mentioned, Poppet, came in from outside with a very pronounced, very bad limp in her back leg. And yowling and in an awful lot of pain and in quite a sorry state. So I have had to get her to the vets. She has been operated on already. She had a very nasty break, so she now has a bunch of screws in her leg and an external splint that we're going to have to take her back to the vet every week during lockdown. So that's going to be interesting because I already kind of flouted the rules to take her to the vet because I don't drive. But I needed to pay, and also she's quite skittish with other people anyway, so I didn't really feel like I could ask somebody to take her to the vet for me.
And it's difficult with a pet. You can't leave them at the end of the drive.
No.
You get someone to pick them up.
So my brother thankfully did agree to take us there, and sort of they were practicing very strict social distancing measures, so I had to get there, call them, they came out, got her, then they came out, gave me some stuff to sign, and lots of that sort of stuff going on. I then had to take her to a different vet because normally they would have drivers doing transfers for referrals, but they don't have any of that going on at the moment because of everything that's going on. So we went to a different vet, which actually did the operation. Thankfully, I have heard that it went swimmingly. She's doing really well. She's going to be in a bit of a sorry state because she's probably very sore. But I was looking at it yesterday through quite sorry eyes, I have to say. And I think I said to you at the time, because I was obviously quite emotional and I didn't know what was wrong with her at the time. She just looked very unwell and she sort of took herself off and hid in a very small corner. And you sort of hear about cats doing that when they're about to pop their clogs. But then I sort of realised I didn't have a way of framing it sort of sensibly mentally. Everything's been so apocalyptic at the moment that my brain went straight to, oh, well, she's gonna die then, isn't she?
Worst case scenario.
And then also, oh, I can't get her to the vet. I'm not gonna be able to get her to the vet. The vets won't be open. They won't be able to operate, and she's gonna suffer. And it all just was there. It went straight to, because like I've said, I don't think my anxiety is an ongoing sort of problem generally nowadays. But we are living in anxious times, and it's very easy to drop straight back into anxious, overthinking, catastrophic thinking is the term that they sort of use in counselling and CBT, is that you sort of magnify everything straight to the worst case scenario and only focus on the worst case scenario. But it's quite hard not to do that when that's sort of what life's feeling like at the moment. Like we're very lucky. We're sort of handling things okay, and thankfully we don't have we've not lost loved ones and things like that. But it feels quite apocalyptic. It feels very like it's not you're not exaggerating to take it to quite apocalyptic places. So it's quite hard when something that sort of would be an unpleasant and dramatic event anyway happens. You go straight into sort of full disaster mode. And then I started thinking to myself, well, Ellie, don't be a dick. People are dying. Nobody's going to give a shit about your cat. I thought you'd give a shit. But,
I'd have given so much of a shit.
So many shits.
I've been looking at a photo of Poppet sitting on my lap and just sort of getting soppy and gooey eyed just looking at this cat.
Yeah,
she's
lovely.
Adorable. And so we're both feeling
a bit battered, and so it did. This all happened sort of. She came in at about midnight last night, and I didn't know what was wrong with sort of looking after her. So I think we sort of admitted defeat. I was on the phone to the emergency vets and all sorts of stuff, and we admitted defeat because we couldn't actually have taken her to the vet anyway, without sort of calling in taxis and all sorts of stuff. But they sort of said, well, if her breathing's okay and she seems conscious, it is probably just that she's hurt herself, and she will be okay overnight. Bring her in tomorrow, which we did, and it was fine. And thankfully, she's great. But it did mean that we didn't really go to bed until about 4:45, four-ish. And obviously, I didn't really sleep. We slept in the spare room because Poppet, in her wisdom, when she first went in there, she hid under a chest of drawers, but then when I went back in there, she somehow managed to get up on the bed. I don't know how she did that, but she then fell asleep on the bed, and I didn't want to disturb her, so we slept in the spare room. But every time there was a noise or anything, I was like, is she okay? So I'm probably functioning on about 90 minutes sleep. So if I'm a bit manic, that's why.
And also, I don't think it's going to be a shocking revelation to tell people that we have not been keeping to a regular kind of schedule of getting up as we would be if I had to get up for work and, commute to Cardiff for my job. So, we've been getting up a bit later than usual. Not always before noon.
So I had to
to get up in order to make an 8 o'clock phone call.
Yeah, and then
then to get up and
get to the vet.
Yeah.
So I spoke to them at 8. I'd made arrangements with my lift, and I didn't know sort of what time was going to be appropriate, so I sort of said, is it okay if I come at about 11? And they were like, yeah, that's fine, as long as she's okay until then. So calling them at 8 to go in at 11 meant I sort of was like, I could go back to sleep till 10, but once you're up and you've been up and about and you've checked on her, I dozed for a bit, but I didn't really sleep. And then gadding back and forth, and because I had to do the transfer myself and all sorts of, lots of things aren't running as they normally would. So something that would already be quite stressful, i.e. a trip to the vet with a very injured animal, just becomes extra complicated. And also just like when you're already a bit tense and stressed, sort of, I was trying to carry the cat carrier, and I've got a mask now, and it popped off, but because my hands were holding the cat carrier, I was just walking, trying to hold my mask on my face like an idiot, and just sort of overthinking things, and it just being very stressful, and just things that normally run very smoothly and everybody's got processes in place. When I got to the second vet that I had to take her to, they had new processes in place, so you had to sit in the car park, ring them, they had to then come and open the door, then you had to go and take the pet, put it in the carrier, and leave your paperwork and sign something and then leave, so kind of like treating it like an airlock, which is all very sensible and what should be done. But when you're already kind of a bit stressed and worried, and you've got a poor, and she also high as a kite by that point because she'd had an x-ray and she was all sedated and loopy, so she was acting a bit weird anyway. Then I realised, she's going in for an operation, so I want to sort of say goodbye, but I'm in like a little gap between two doors and I can't really like see her, and then having to just leave her there just felt very grim and upsetting. And then sort of you go away, and anything going in for an operation, like she's in good health, she's 5 years old, she's otherwise perfectly fit and healthy, but like you do hear terrible things happening, and I was just like, well, I haven't been able to say goodbye, and like I haven't really been able to sort of, and you just go, like I say, straight to the catastrophic thinking. But it was all just I think the day-to-day stuff we're getting used to, and it's when something like that throws you a curveball, and as soon as it happened I was just like, well, nobody's going to be able to help her, and this is all going to go horribly wrong, and
what are the rules because of social distancing? How do we get there? Where can we go?
What can we do? And so they even just, thankfully we should be able to pick her up tomorrow morning, but they didn't know if they were going to be able to operate today or tomorrow. If they'd been operating tomorrow, they didn't have staff to do the night watch, so I would have had to go back, pick her up from the one vet, take her to the other vets, because they did have a night nurse like sort of watching on, and it was all just very complicated. And all of those sorts of ins and outs would normally be done by essentially kind of a vet ambulance service. They would be drivers that would take vets, because there's sort of a specialist orthopedic surgeon that does quite a lot of, like, looks after lots of different vets. They recommended I went to him, and also if we went to him, that would mean that she didn't have to come home and be crated with a basically very badly broken leg that she would be like making worse over the weekend. So I'm very glad that they were able to, and they were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant across the board. Everyone I dealt with was amazing, and particularly the people I spoke to in the middle of the night last night, because I was in a bit of a state. Thankfully I hadn't had any wine. Well, I'd had a half a glass of wine at that point, but I was just going, oh my cat's been like, I think she's really hurt and I don't know what's wrong with it, because I couldn't really get a good look and I was being an idiot. And they were very patient and put my mind at rest, and everybody's been brilliant. Also, people online have been very helpful, because I've sort of needed to sort lifts, I've needed to sort crates for when she comes home, and everybody's got enough on their plate right now, and I'm very aware of that. So you feel like a bit of a dick going online and sort of saying, hey guys, kind of need a favour. But thankfully, I think everybody's got a bit of a sort of, we're all in this together and let's look after each other. And I was sort of flooded with offers for help for crates and things like that. And really touching, because of any time, everybody's got enough to worry about to be doing favours for other people. But I think people are more inclined to be doing favours for other people right now. And it's really heartwarming. It's a lovely thing that is being brought out of a lot of people right now. So I will stop going on about my cat now. There will be people watching this being like, Jesus Christ, calm down, woman. But you don't get it. You don't get it. She is my baby. And
we love her very much. And the upshot being that we are both feeling relieved that she's okay,
yes,
and glad that she had her operation. But we've both been through the mill a bit, especially Ellie. And we're both a bit lacking in sleep and a bit overtired. But also, one thing that we, if a lesson can be learned from this at all, is make sure, guys, that you insure your pets.
God, yes. That's another thing, because obviously money's tight and everything's a bit insecure at the moment. Thankfully, I have insured Poppet since I had her. She's just turned 5. So I think when I first had her, it was about sort of £7.50 a month. It's gradually crept up. It's now about £9 a month, £9 something. And thank God, because orthopaedic surgery is not a cheap hobby. All of this, taking her in this morning just for the x-rays was 360 quid. And then them finding an orthopaedic surgeon that could do it quickly and all of that sort of stuff. Grand total for everything today, £3,950 something, and that's not including a few extra admin fees and the money I spent on just the medication and stuff. So basically £4,000, which if I hadn't got her insured, I wouldn't be able to put myself put hands on £4,000. So I would be in the horrendous position of either choosing to take out a loan or apply for a credit card or use a credit card that I couldn't afford to use, or say goodbye to a much, much loved pet. And that's not a choice I want to make, which is I knew would be a choice I'd never want to make, which is why I don't mind forking out for the insurance, which when you've got as many pets as we do, does rack up. We've got 4 cats and a dog. So just our insurance bill a month is hefty, but it does mean if something like this happens, we've got peace of mind. So as it happens, I've been paying out for Poppet about £9 a month, and it's a £99 excess, but £4,000. So 99 quid out of pocket, I can suck that up. There are a lot of people out there that even that would be a challenge. Thankfully, I've put a little bit away for sort of emergency rainy day things like that. But yeah, £4,000 is insurmountable. A friend of mine did point out, well, what they could have done is just take her leg off, which is much cheaper because it's an easier operation, which is true. I think orthopaedic surgery, because you're sort of having to be quite precise about it, I think they charge a lot more, whereas if they just lop it off. She said she'd had a dog had to have a leg off and it was a few £100. But even that is not a choice you want to have to make of, do I lose the leg or do I spend the more money to save the leg? And it's basically, so if you've got pets, please, for your own peace of mind, do insure them. Thankfully from this, 1 or 2 people have said, you've really reminded me, I have been meaning to do that. I have now insured my pet, so good. Something good's come of it.
I mean, that said,
yeah,
if you haven't got pet insurance, there has never been a better time to take some money off a loan shark. Because they can't send the boys round.
They can't send the boys round. What are they going to do?
The boys are self-isolating.
How are you going to meet the loan shark?
Are the boys key workers? I don't think so.
I don't think loan sharks are either, though, are they? They might be off.
Oh,
they might be furloughed.
No, they can probably just do that digitally these days.
They
send you the money over PayPal, and then they can't send the boys round to take your kneecaps.
So that's a weird...
They don't take the kneecaps. Big collection of kneecaps that are selling on the black market.
So they throw their germs at you and they take their kneecaps off you.
As you can tell, I know a lot about loan sharks.
He's lived an edgy life, this one. But yeah, so I will stop going on about that now, but I would highly recommend, unless you've got a big chunk of money that you can just dip into, which not many people do. If you do, then fine, take the hit, because you might not need it, and then maybe you think, well, I've saved that £9 a month for many years of having a pet and I didn't need it, great. But if you do need it and you can't afford it, that's a terrible, terrible choice that you might be having to make, and I would not wish that on anyone. We are particularly ridiculous when it comes to our animals, but everybody I know who's got pets would struggle with a choice like that. So do contemplate insuring your pets. It isn't that expensive, and you can actually even do things like accident only. If you just sort of think, well, my pet's a bit old and he's got a few pre-existing conditions, at least then you know if you got hit by a car or something like that, you'd be able to dip into a fund. So I am so grateful. The number of times I've said, I've said, thank all the gods that I don't believe in that I have insurance for this cat, because it was a horrible day and a horrible situation to be in anyway, and with the added burden of £4,000 of unexpected financial distress, I would not have been handling that well right now. So yes, I really will stop talking about my cat now.
Because apart from anything else, we've got loads more things to talk about today, and we're about halfway through already. Yeah. So, well, I tell you what, while you've had other stuff to deal with, because generally Ellie does a bit more research for this and keeps us up to date with what's going on in the outside world, and takes care of some of the politics and policy
been a bit busy
side
today.
Of things. So I've done a little bit of
have you?
Yeah, a little bit of politics and business news.
Oh, okay. Tell us the politics and business news,
well,
Chris.
What do you want first?
Business
news.
Yeah.
Okay, business news. So obviously at the moment, in much the same way, there's going to be a lot of businesses worrying about, people who own businesses worrying about what's going to happen the other side of this, and obviously in much the same way that we wouldn't wish death on anyone.
That escalated.
From the whole COVID-19 thing, because, that is a debate that, Boris is very ill, and some people,
I just wasn't prepared for wishing death on people in that conversation.
And some people are going, well, fuck him, and other people are going, well, hold on,
don't fuck him.
He might be a prick. No, he's definitely a prick, but let's not wish death on anyone, and that's fair. That seems a reasonable line.
We don't like him, but we certainly don't want him to be ill.
We're not going to wish death on people.
No.
But and similarly, it feels like a bad time to be kind of wishing for the downfall of a business.
Yes.
That said,
yeah,
it seems as though the Sun, for the first time, is going to dip below 1 million in readership. They are sort of
making 68 million losses, I think, something like that. Yeah, I have seen this story.
Because obviously they're not, there's not people going out, I guess, buying daily newspapers as much. People are getting their news online or from the telly. There's a lot of news available.
I think there's a bit more to it. I think people are pointing out, or at least I'm seeing, and which admittedly I'm in my little bubble, but a lot of people have been pointing out and sharing sort of headlines and front pages of them basically really saying some terrible things about the NHS. When there was the junior doctor strike for more pay, their front page was sack the doctors. Sack the docs, I think, because obviously they don't use 2 syllables if they can use 1. But yeah, basically, and also they've been very pro-Tory, which have been strangling the NHS. And I think people are going, hang on a fucking minute.
On Merseyside, people haven't bought the Sun
for
decades. Since the Hillsborough disaster, and finally it looks like the nation is catching up, because as I say, they're dipping below the 1 million mark for circulation. Their business model is very dependent.
People aren't paying for ads. That people aren't selling their ads in there either,
and
so they're not getting their ad revenue.
Very dependent on advertising. So there's a very real chance that the Sun might go out of business, and
I will not be sad if that happens.
No, exactly.
It was like when the News of the World went down. I thought that was brilliant, and then they just did the Sun on Sunday, like, well, it's the same fucking thing, isn't it?
So but this time, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad if that went under.
Yeah.
Anybody who works for the Sun who has a soul can get a job somewhere else, and they'll probably feel better and sleep better. And most of the people who work for the Sun are absolute scumbags. So screw them. Don't care.
Fuck them.
Go under.
So that's business news.
Business news.
Business news.
What's the political news then, Christopher?
Political news. Well.
Oh, Christopher. I don't normally do that.
No, I know. But I'm being very serious with my political news. So it turns out there's been an announcement that MPs can now claim an extra £10,000 a year for expenses to cover the costs of working from home.
Yeah, right. I think I heard from you this story, and my first gut reaction was, you fucking what? I'm getting 10,000 to cover rent and bills and wages for employees for the next 3 months for the whole business, and that was a godsend and I was grateful for it. 10 grand just to work from home when you've already got like
that's on top of
huge amounts of expenses.
On top of the £26,000 they can already claim a year to run an office.
Yeah.
And they can also, that's also on top of their £79,000+ wage.
Very carefully, not quite 80,000, but basically 80,000.
But it's basically £79,500. That's their annual wage as an MP.
Yeah.
And
so just an extra 10 grand for the inconvenience of working from home.
Yes.
Like, how is it costing you extra? I will say, I have seen the other side of this argument, and it's sort of fair. It holds a tiny bit of water. It doesn't hold a lot. But the idea for that is not necessarily that it's going to be the MP's additional costs for working from home, but the MP will likely have staff that may work for them and may not have good internet, laptops, things like that at home. So it's to cover them. They don't have to use it, but they can. It's an extra pot to dip into. That extra pot to dip into adds up to 6.5 million.
Well, yeah.
For all of the MPs. And they have also just encouraged us all to do a 5 million public fundraiser for the NHS.
Just ahead on me on all my.
I know.
I
didn't think I'd been paying attention, but it's all just sinking in. Sorry, Chris, I stole your thunder.
No, that's fine. All the stuff that just sinks in when you're not paying attention is the same stuff that I learn when I really try. So that's good. But yeah, there is a. It's not the government directly, but there's a charity that is trying to encourage people to raise money. Because it's associated with all the clapping that people are doing on 8 p.m. on a Thursday, which we did. Everyone in the street here was very involved in, which was lovely. But they're trying to.
We had another one tonight because it's Thursday and it was lovely. Yeah, it was very good.
Literally what I just said. So
I didn't realise you said it was tonight. I thought you were just saying generally.
So they're trying to start a campaign called 1MillionClaps.
Yeah.
And you can text clap to 70507, and that will give a £5 donation to help. Things with the NHS that they need.
Okay.
Now it's a proper campaign, and when I say proper, David Walliams is involved. So I presume, I haven't really fact checked it, but I presume that David Walliams people would, because they wouldn't want him getting involved with a bogus campaign.
Probably.
So it's probably proper. Yeah. It's probably proper. I mean, do your own research. Don't take my advice. But if you do want to give to that, text clap to 70507. That will make a £5 donation to help NHS workers get the things they need. That's obviously brilliant as far as it goes, but they hope to raise £5 million, which, as we've mentioned, if the 650 MPs that are sitting in Parliament who make 80 grand a year and have now £36,000 worth of expenses that they can claim were all to donate 10 grand a year to the NHS, that would be 6.5 million raised for the NHS.
Yeah.
And maybe the government, okay, they want their MPs to be able to buy their staff some more laptops, but maybe that money would be better spent with the NHS. I mean, look.
I think maybe the priority should be they can make it work. Their staff can maybe just be furloughed. I haven't got a laptop.
It'd be easier for me to work from home if I could buy 10 grand's worth of equipment. I could probably make some sketches. I could put some stuff out and maybe create some content and things which I can't really do very easily.
Yeah, everybody else in the country who's being asked to work from home is being expected to pull these resources out of their arse.
For 10 grand, you could probably create some sort of virtual escape room, couldn't you? Do something.
I could do something with it that would be fun.
This is it. 10 grand. We could, we could try some things, couldn't we? We could do some stuff, and obviously.
And everybody else is being expected to pluck this out of thin air, but MPs are being given 10 extra grand on top of the many grands that they already have, which I sort of think is quite insulting because everybody else is being expected to. So they're saying, work from home if you can. Well, I can't because maybe I don't have internet and I share a flat and I don't, but I could work from home if I had, say, 300 quid to buy myself a cheap laptop and put towards the broadband bill. Maybe then I could, but you don't. So still got to work because you don't have any resources to work from home, and businesses can't afford to spend that because they don't have money coming in right now. So yeah, it feels a bit insulting. I think it's misjudged. I think they got a bit of tunnel vision there. I think they're sort of just thinking about how this affects them, but not how that looks to other people who are dealing with much more difficult circumstances. not being given anything, and they go, well, there's only 65 of us, 650 of us, so it's not, it's small, but, well, no, 6.5 million is not small fare, really, is it?
And bear in mind, this is the same government that is sitting, not all of them, because the 650 of them, now some of them are
hashtag not all government.
Hashtag not all MPs, but some of them are pretty decent. Our local one, I think, is actually pretty good.
She's lovely.
But, you know, the Tory MPs that were sitting actually cheered and clapped when they denied NHS workers a pay rise last year.
If you think that sounds like we're being hyperbolic, just look it up.
There's a YouTube clip.
There's footage.
We're not exaggerating. They literally
then it went through. They clapped and cheered and whooped in the Houses of Parliament,
because they were so happy they weren't, and yet they
disgusting.
have consistently given themselves pay rises and all sorts, and they are the worst kind of people.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, good political and business news. Though.
Thanks,
man.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a bit of time left. We've got about 5 minutes.
No, yeah.
Well, we've got about 4 minutes actually.
I can see the time as well.
I'm telling them. They don't know.
Okay, there's about 4 minutes left, guys. Don't worry, it's nearly over. Oh, God. Nearly at the end.
Can you tell we're a bit sleep deprived?
You've nearly made it through another one.
Well done, you.
Yeah.
Clap for you.
Sorry I had to witness that unpleasantness between the two of us. We don't normally... probably the biggest row we've had under lockdown, isn't it?
I don't know. I think I fucking hate your Tupperware. Probably is still the worst.
Oh.
I do fucking hate your
Tupperware debacle of 2020. We'll look back on that in years to come, telling the grandkids how we nearly split up. But
that was a nice thing though, actually, to go back to the clap for the NHS thing that you just mentioned, which was an aside, but it is nice. When we were out this evening clapping for the NHS and making a lot of noise, every week it's been better attended and people have been making more noise, and I think it's been lovely. But we sort of looked over the road and there is a family on the other side of the road, a few doors up, with two young daughters, probably both under 5, and they were sort of banging their pots and pans, and sort of they shouted thank you, and then we shouted thank you, and they sort of like waved, and then Chris sort of said, he didn't sort of say, he said,
I did say,
this has got to really, for the kids who don't really understand what's going on with all of this, the time when you get out and you see people and you bang your pots and pans, it's going to break the tedium. But also, I think it might be a really fond memory that they look back on of, oh yeah, I remember. I didn't really maybe fully understand what it was about, but every Thursday we'd go out, we'd bang our pots and pans in the street, and all the neighbours would come out, and I think that is a really lovely sense of community.
It's going to be the equivalent of people's grandparents talking to them about the Blitz. You know, in 60 years they'll
or
be able
maybe
to tell
the street parties after the Blitz.
Yeah, in 60 years they'll be able to tell their grandkids, oh, there was this weird time, we were all in lockdown, we couldn't go out, and we couldn't see our friends, and once a week we all went and banged on pots and pans, and their grandkids are going to be, what's a pot and pan? What
are pots?
What are pots?
What are pans? What are they for?
What?
Oh, Grandad.
Oh, he's so old. Blooming dinosaur. And it's going to be a very lovely time for them all.
I want to know what Star Trek nonsense you think is going to replace pots and pans.
Oh, well, we've been watching Red Dwarf, and it'll be some automated machine. I went for my first trip to the shops today.
Ever.
In about 3 weeks. First trip to the shops since lockdown, since all the social distancing. I got about as far as the little car park in front of the Tesco. Saw there was a queue about 8 deep outside the front door, and it's not a big Tesco.
It's not a big supermarket.
It's like a little local Tesco, and I thought, oh no, it's a bit much. I'm not waiting in that for ages. Excuse me. So I tried the little local kind of corner shop, which is only really a few doors down, and I pretty much had the place to myself, which was nice. So, you know, if your local supermarket is
think
struggling...
about your little corner shop, but like there's quite a few like little ethnic shops and Polish shops and sort of Asian sort of corner shops that people aren't necessarily going to, but they're very well stocked.
Yeah,
so
you can sometimes get some good supplies there you wouldn't necessarily be able to get hold of at your supermarket where everyone's been stockpiling. But no one's been going to, you know, these shops are getting
even
the flour
when
the tomato passata or whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, even when the lockdown before the lockdown had started, but people were already panic buying, things that had run out in the supermarkets, so pasta, rice, tins of tomatoes, toilet paper, very pleased to see in the corner shop, still had all of it. It wasn't a problem. I think, though, also you need to bear in mind the optics of the queues outside the Tesco, because they're a queue of 8 deep that doesn't sound like much of a queue, but because everybody's having to social distance, that will be 2 meters apart, 8 deep, which looks like a big queue. So I think also it is worth kind of, when you go to those queues, you sort of realise that might not take that long to go down. It just looks like a long queue.
But also, you don't really know how long you're going to be waiting. Yeah. So the other thing is, as per current government advice, we are all supposed to be wearing masks now. And I was the only person I saw. I went out and walked the dog today, and I went to the shop, and I was the only person
Not in his plague mask yet.
Not yet, I haven't got that yet. But I was the only person I saw wearing any sort of mask at all, which meant I actually felt quite self-conscious, but I'm sticking with it because that is the current advice, and because it's as much about me not infecting anyone in case I'm asymptomatic as it is about being infected by other people.
It can't hurt, and I think the more people do it, the more people see other people doing it, the more they'll feel like it's okay for them to do it.
So yeah, do it, and we're really running out of time, so we're just going to end by showing off our masks.
There you go. My ears are too small for me to hook it over my ears, so I have to hook it over my hair clip.
Yeah, a friend of Ellie's very generously made these for us for nothing. So...
But I did donate to Feed Newport, which you should look up. I'm going to do that so that people can hear me. I donated to Feed Newport in lieu of paying for the masks, because I thought, well, if she's not going to take payment for making them, then I'm going to give payment for... Ow! They're very tight when I put it over my hair clip. But yeah, I've got stupid small ears.
Really have to wrap up because
we've got to go.
31 minutes is going to cut us off.
So yeah, it's going to cut us off. So we got to go. But more tomorrow, and thank you for watching.
Bye.
Toodles.